start with the new transcripts from the January 6th committee and CNN's justice correspondent Jessica Schneider. So tell us what's in these, Jess.
Allison, there are a lot of new details here, particularly because one of these transcripts is Cassidy Hutchinson's final deposition from June 2022. That was actually right after she had fired her Trump world attorney, and her new attorney was letting her correct the record and really tell every truth to the committee. So first off, she told the committee that she saw Mark Meadows burning documents in his office fireplace around a dozen times, which she guessed amounted to about once or twice a week, all between December 2020 and January 2021. And she says at least twice she saw Mark Meadows burning documents after he met with Republican Congressman Scott Perry. Perry, meanwhile, he'd been subpoenaed by the committee, but he never complied. Then there's another account that Hutchinson says Mark Meadows actually told White House staffers during the transition that they should keep a close hold on their meetings. So she says he put it this way: I remember him having a meeting with Oval Office saying, let's keep some meetings close hold. We will talk about what that means, but for now we will keep things real tight and private so things don't start to leak out. And Hutchinson expanded upon that. She said that these meetings were essentially kept off the books. They were out of the Oval Office diary. Essentially, there'd be no record of these meetings. So Allison, between this detail and also Hutchinson observing Meadows burning documents, a lot of questions, a lot more tonight now that this transcript is out, about what exactly Meadows was trying to hide, and Allison, really who he might be trying to protect.
Those are excellent questions. Also, how about all this QAnon stuff that has come out? I mean, how much QAnon crazy talk there was in the White House around the president?
Yeah, it seems like there was a lot, because Hutchinson, she talked about these multiple conversations within the White House where all these people seem to endorse these QAnon conspiracy theories. So she said that Mark Meadows, for one, brought it up. Also, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene made mention of it. And then she actually said that she had this exchange with the White House trade advisor, Peter Navarro. She said, at one point, I had sarcastically said, oh, is this from your QAnon friends, Peter? Because Peter would talk to me frequently about his QAnon friends. And he said, have you looked into it yet, Cass? I think they point out a lot of good ideas. You really need to read this. Make sure the chief sees it. And then Hutchinson said she later replied to the committee, I did not take this as sarcasm. Allison, Navarro has since been indicted for refusing to comply with subpoenas from the committee. But really, Cassidy Hutchinson here, now that we have 4 complete transcripts from her, we are seeing a ton more details revealed to the committee than we really previously knew. And that begs the question here, she's cooperated with the Justice Department. What might she lend to their investigation, and what potential criminal charges based on her accounts could that potentially lead to? That's something we're going to be really keeping an eye on into the new year. Allison.
Every new revelation contains surprises. Jessica, thank you very much for all of that reporting. I want to bring in now CNN legal analyst Norm Eisen, counterterrorism analyst Phil Mudd, political commentator Maria Cardona, and Olivia Troy, former Homeland Security and COVID task force advisor to Vice President Pence. Great to see all of you tonight. Norm, I'm no lawyer, but burning documents in your office fireplace doesn't sound that great. Burning, dozens, I think was the word. And so, but of course, it's hard to know what Mark Meadows burned. So how legally damning?
Well, Allison, it's quite legally damning when you're looking at potential obstruction of justice, and you have these badges, these indicators of trying to keep things secret. It's not just burning the documents. A couple of those episodes were after Meadows met with Congressman Scott Perry. We know he's in the Justice Department bullseye, Allison. They seized his phone. That's another bad sign. And then there's keeping the meetings secret, keeping them on the QT. So there's a lot of evidence here that is troubling, and it adds to the accumulation that suggests crimes were committed. Meadows is one of those DOJ is making, receiving criminal referrals from the committee on. And now we know more why.
Olivia, it's interesting. It came out tonight that Cassidy Hutchinson wanted to clarify or, I guess, elaborate on her original testimony, because first she had a Trump-supported, Trump-endorsed lawyer. And then she thought that she was getting bad advice from that lawyer who basically, according to reporting, had told her to not remember certain things. So then she contacted the committee and wanted to clarify some things. So here is this clarification. So the committee asks her, on page 43, lines 9 through 11, you were asked, was there discussion about it needing to happen, it being the rally, before the joint session started at 1 p.m. on January the 6th? You said then, not to my recollection right now. You want to clarify that. Ms. Hutchinson says, after reviewing my transcripts and thinking further into this moment, I do recall conversations about having the rally prior to Congress convening on January 6th to certify the results of the election. The committee asks, do you remember why? Cassidy Hutchinson says, at the time, I understood the reason to be the president's desired movement to the Capitol as Congress convened that day. And then Liz Cheney asks her that the president wanted to be at the Capitol in time for the joint session to convene. And Ms. Hutchinson says, that's correct, or around. And of course, now we know what happened at the Capitol. So, I mean, having been in the administration, what do you see when you read through and hear about these transcripts?
I think Cassidy wanted to tell the truth, and she was being sort of confined by these Trump people around her who were basically sort of, keeping her from doing so. And she felt that she needed to come forward and really speak truthfully about what had happened here. I think one of the more striking things is that conversation that she has with Peter Navarro. And I just want to state this because I actually personally have had those types of conversations with Peter Navarro earlier in the year in 2020 in regard to the COVID pandemic and the Q conspiracies that he would bring in, trying to give them to the vice president at the time. And I used to intercept them, and I used to take the documents out of his hand, believe it or not. And he would say to me, but Olivia, have you looked into this? Have you looked into hydroxychloroquine, all these things? And I would sit there and I would look at him and I think, like, if this actually comes out of the vice president's mouth, or we actually send this out to the American people, you could kill thousands of people. A lot of these theories were just flat out random false conspiracies. And to see Cassidy talk about that and say this was a regular occurrence where he would drop these things and walk them into Mark Meadows during her tenure, I can speak truthfully that I dealt with that as well. And I know, because I remember Mark Meadows walking some of these theories in to the vice president's office, where I would then have to counter the situation. And as you can imagine, as a Homeland Security or COVID task force advisor at the time, I mean, this is so out of the realm of the possibility that this is something that's happening in the West Wing. This is something that I've never dealt with in my entire national security career.